So I'm back. Again, personnel. We have. First of all, I want to say we have two absolutely amazing pastors, and when we have personnel, I mean, our job is to make sure that the care and feeding of the staff and the pastors, and everyone's getting the support that they need. When we look at the way Kurt and Mary, how they work together, the coordination, and just the way they interact with each other, we couldn't be more pleased as a team. Considering the amazing strengths that these two people have, about a year and a half ago, we in personnel started exploring the possibility of a co-pastorate. And we've done a lot of different things around like researching that. What does it mean? How do you take an associate, senior, and turn it into a co-pastorate role? So we've done a lot of research, a lot of study, a lot of just like what's the feasibility in doing that. And I don't want to get into too many of the details, but I thought, what would be good, and we thought as a team what would be good, both session and personnel, is to really hear the story. Like, how did this come about? Why? What was the thinking? How did we get to where we're at? And what we're doing right now is we just want to explore what it would mean to have a co-pastorate role. Okay? So I'm going to excuse myself, and I'm going to let Mary continue the story.
So let's see. Kurt had been here a year, and after that first year, I was very aware of just how much he loved this congregation and already knew your names. Some of you probably heard me say with just great delight, he is going to love this church as much as I do, no doubt in my mind. And that just really gave me a lot of joy and confidence, and actually by the end of the year I was asking him people's names. Just was learning them so fast, and the whole spectrum of this congregation was beloved to him. So that was one thing that was very striking to me early on after he got here. The second thing that was striking to me were the gifts that he has in ministry. And some of them were in arenas that really were needed here by the larger congregation. For instance, visioning. Every time a new staff person comes on here, we take a personality profile, strengths finder, and one of his top strengths is strategic thinking. And it's one of the things that we have not done as well here. And when we had our consultant come, had to be taught how to do visioning, and are still being taught how to do visioning, and it's something that comes naturally to him. It's embodied in him. So there are, various ways that he would, bring that strength. Also, as a staff, we were studying a book by Ken Lencioni about how to build a healthy leadership team and staff team, and watching Kurt and his strengths in building that team and contributing to that team and helping the team actually apply those concepts was very enlightening and also encouraging, and also demonstrating his gifts for leadership in that arena too. The third thing rather, in terms of competency, is that he has a passion for healthy communication, and studies systems theories, and you probably heard him talk about some of this stuff, but he brings it to his leadership, and he has brought that healthy way of communicating into every level of this church life. And the way that's impacted me is that it's built an enormous amount of trust. Completely trust him, and completely open, and feel like I can say anything, the things that I don't feel good about, or feel insecure about, or feel concerned about. I can basically be open and forthcoming about anything, and I feel like he could do the same thing with me. That is rare. That is really rare. All those things are rare. Now, before Kurt even arrived, I'd had an interest in the whole model of co-pastorate. I had been wondering about it out loud to certain colleagues, but once I saw his gift mix, I also went to Kevin Ford and said, do you know somebody I can talk to that can help me find out some information about co-pastorates? You know, what's good about them, what's not good about them. And so I was connected with somebody that knew a lot about co-pastorates, and was told, you know, that co-pastorates can go really, really poorly, or they can go really, really well. And it depends on the two people. Depends on their complementary gifts, depends on their shared ministry or shared vision for the church, where they see the church going, depends on their trust, their ability to communicate, and their commitment to the model. And as he was listening to our situation, and I was describing as best I could who Kurt is, who I am, he said, sounds to me like you have as good a possibility as any people I've come across. Because of that, I went to Drew, who was chairing personnel at the time, and I said, I've been wondering about this, wonder what you think. And he said, let's take it to personnel. So we did take it to personnel, and personnel received it well. And one of the things we made clear is that this was not a succession plan. I wasn't announcing my retirement. I don't have immediate plans to retire. This was really about who he is and who together we could be as far as leaders for this church. So I'm going to turn it over. Once we took it to personnel, eventually when we felt positive about this idea, the next step was to bring it to Kurt. So I'm going to turn it over to Kurt, let him take it from here.
Yeah, so Mary, she shared this idea with me about a year ago, actually, in 2017, and I knew a little bit about co-pastor model for ministry, but not much. But I did have a really good friend. Her name was Dawn Hyde. She was pastor at Mission Bay Community Church in San Francisco. Really, really good friends. And she left that church in Mission Bay last year in January to go to another church in South Carolina where she was going to be a co-pastor with somebody else. So I called Dawn and I talked to her about it, and she shared with me a bunch of ideas about what this co-pastor model of ministry is like, how she really believes in it and the congregation believes in it, and that it actually leverages opportunities to follow Jesus more closely. That in scriptures we hear stories about Jesus sending people out in pairs together. And even the Apostle Paul, when he traveled throughout the Mediterranean, always had a colleague with him. And so there's this idea of having co-pastor as a model for ministry. And then Don got me in touch with some other people. And this is part of the story that is just more technical, but in our Presbyterian polity, there's 3 terms for different pastors that you can elect to a congregation, which is pastor, co-pastor, and associate pastor. There's actually not senior pastor. That's not actually an official designation. But in certain circumstances, you can shift somebody who's already pastor and associate pastor to co-pastor. And Dawn had friends that had done this, and she got me in touch with them. And so after this initial idea last year from Drew and Mary, my interest was a bit more piqued, and I thought more about it. I hadn't given it much thought before then, and I just sat with it for a little while. And then last year when Mary went on sabbatical for those 3 months, that was a really informative and learning opportunity for me in being pastor to this congregation, because I have brought different skill sets, I have brought different gifts to this congregation, but to be able to do it in that way in which, I remember after Mary came back, some people on staff said, it feels like we've just continued to be who we are, and we haven't really paused or set aside who we are as a church with you being gone, that we are living this out in who we are as a church. And I thought that was a reflection of all of who we are actually as a church right now, that we have found ourselves heading in a similar direction and a similar path. And part of that, I found a lot of life in being the pastor to this congregation and doing memorial services and preaching 8 of those Sundays. And I just thought I'm more interested now in this co-pastor conversation than I was about a year ago, because I think this could leverage some really interesting opportunities for us. And then in the past 3 months, one of the things that's really kind of clicked for me, and one of the things I love about this congregation, is our sticky faith model of youth ministry. And one of the things I love about the sticky faith model of youth ministry is this longing to involve teenagers in the whole life of the church, to not separate them out, to not have just the teenagers here, the adults here, the little kids here, but to really live into intergenerational ministry. And I was preaching about a month ago, and I remember looking out at some of the high school students and some of the middle school students in the church, and I thought, so often the primary person who's doing ministry with middle schoolers and high schoolers has nothing to do with Sunday morning worship. They are downstairs doing children's ministry. They're not actually up there preaching. And I thought, this could be an opportunity to fully leverage who we are as a church and doing intergenerational ministry in a way that very few other churches are doing. And I thought, yeah, there's legs here. I'm really excited about this. So those are the kind of the three parts of my story that I would just share with you all right now about my excitement about this idea coming to you all. And now I'm going to let Kirsten share a bit more about Session's journey over the past few months about, once I said when I was interested, then Pastoral brought this idea to Session. So.
Hi everybody, I'm Kirsten, and I'm an elder on Session here. So in December, Pastoral brought this idea to Session. And at that meeting, we decided to go ahead and experiment for the next 3 months, see what it was going to look like on a small scale, see if this was viable, and then bring it forward to the congregation now. So since then, we have spent many hours in conversation and prayer about this. I mean, we've really, really worked hard, and over that, it actually became clear that this needed to be a strategic priority. One way or another, our pastoral relations are important to us, and it just really floated to the top that this was a priority for our session and for our church. So we spent a lot of time in prayer, conversation, discerning the Spirit, and then we voted last week to bring it to you guys. So this just is sort of fresh off the press for us too. And now it's your turn. So we're turning all this information over to you, and we want you to go home, pray about it, talk about it, think about it, and then bring your questions and your feedback back to us. So we're not taking questions today because there's actually going to be a variety of ways that we engage in a conversation about this over the next couple months. So April 15th is probably the first big opportunity to talk about it. There's going to be a town hall meeting after church. But we're also going to talk about it at Great Getaway. We're going to have smaller meetings at ministry team meetings and in small groups. And we welcome your direct feedback as well. So the website has been updated. There's a whole tab, we worked on it together, where you can read some FAQs, and you can, there's like a feedback form that you guys can fill out and send in questions or comments. And then you can come up to any one of us individually. Anyone on Session is excited to talk about this with you guys, and of course Kurt and Mary as well, and the personnel team. So there's a lot of people that you can get in touch with, and Kristen wants to be included too.
Should we have like Session and
Yeah, whoever is on Session or personnel in the room, can you just stand up or raise your hand so people can see who you are? And then all of their contact information is also on the website, and it's under the co-pastor tab. You can find their emails so that you can speak with them that way as well. Let's see what else here we got. So I know that this is a lot of information, and that we've come together with this pretty package, but I know that it took us a long time as a team to discuss these things, and we as a session really feel like it's important that you guys have all the information too. So please check out the website, because we worked really hard on all of that. And actually this portion is going to be, it's being filmed and will be put on the website also. And then I just cannot emphasize enough to you guys that this is an ongoing discussion, and that we really want you to be engaged and involved in this, just as you always are in our whole life of the church. So we're really, as a session, really excited to see where these next 6 months are going to take us, and I really look forward to all the conversations that we're going to have. Yeah.
Just a comment about the fact that shifting the pastoral relationship like this is ultimately a decision of our presbytery. It's not a decision of our session or our congregation. Ultimately, if you end up feeling positive about this, then you as a congregation would recommend to the Committee on Ministry in our presbytery and to the presbytery that this change be made. And it would take a 3/4 vote of presbytery to make this change. If you have questions about the presbytery's role, we actually have our presbytery liaison with Committee on Ministry, Erica Skimper, is over here. Bless her for being here today. She's an awesome liaison. So we have met with Committee on Ministry. They know we're having this discussion and why we're having it. We've been supported in that exploration. And as far as where we think this might go, maybe in the fall, we might check with the congregation to see if you're ready to make a recommendation or not. So we're not going to rush this. It's basically your exploration, but just please know that it is an exploration. And really, since Erica's here, if you want to stick around and talk to her, that's why she's here.
And then lastly, if I can, I'll just show you what the website will look like now. So if you go to, wow. That's a beautiful picture of Tahoe. So if you go to our website now, you can just go to this tab that says Co-Pastor. If you click on it, here's a little introduction to opening thoughts, and then there's 3 tabs underneath it. One is an overview. The next one is a list of frequently asked questions that personnel in session came up with and answered themselves. And then there's a feedback form where you can provide your thoughts and questions if you have them. The overview is, we're going to send out a congregational letter tomorrow so that everybody can know about this, everybody will be on the same page and have the same information at the same exact time. And this is the letter that's going out tomorrow. You can read it, and at the very bottom of the letter is a list of the personnel ministry team in session. Each one of those names is hyperlinked, so if you want to send them an email, just click on their name, and you can send them an email and talk to them. Also, you can go to the online directory too to find anybody's information on those sessions. And then you can see here, if you click on FAQs, there are questions that they've come up with. So if you have questions too that you want to be included on this and have answered by personnel in session, they will answer them. So you can see here, like question number 3, the traditional model of senior head, staff pastor, and associate pastor seems to work. Why change now? So all of these questions are on here, and I encourage you to look at them. They're also included in the congregational mailing tomorrow. And then I'll show you the last part of the website too. So if you go to where it says give feedback under the co-pastor tab, there's a form right here. Well, it'll pop up, it's working. But there's a form that's right here, and you can fill, oh great, here it is. You can just say, what is your question? Click on there, you can write it in, and then say, if you'd like to leave your name, you can leave your name. That's also optional. Hit enter, and it'll get submitted to us, and we'll add it to the frequently asked questions after this. So I believe that's everything for Trinity's 3rd priority is right now. Say hi to Karen, talk to her. Karen's going to pray at the end of the meeting. Okay, not yet. We have one more part of our meeting. So. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, personnel. Thank you, session.